Hello students, welcome to the class of software engineering. Let us revise about the different diagrams learnt in UML. So we have studied use case diagrams. So use case diagram for library management system. So you know what exactly is this library management system. So directly we'll go for the use case diagram. So how you are representing a use case diagram is you have to take an actor. So here actors are represented with stick figures. So here one actor is librarian, another actor is student, because student actually goes to the library and he wants to get the book, borrow the book from the library. So now this library management system, librarian, he can log in to the library management system built. Okay, so in his system he can log into his library management system, and then he has the credentials to add the book. Any new book he can add. Okay, so latest books he can add. He can add the branch, means that book actually is required by which branch of people. He can add the student, so he can add the student details, their branch, and he can issue the book. What all he can do? He can return the book, add penalty, change the password, view reports, all those. Okay, so now here what about the student? He can log in. He can log in and see which all books are available. Okay, then he can view the reports also. Yeah, correct. He can view the reports. Now we'll see the activity diagram for returning the book in library. Now first you have to validate. So this is the initial state, no? First you have to validate the member. So you have to see that he's an authorized member or not. So if he's not, then display the message not a valid member. Not a valid member. So this is decision making. Okay, if else. So if he's a valid member, means if he's a student, you think, then get issue details. So first get the details when the book was issued and when he has to return it. Then get member type, calculate the fine. So if there is fine, then add that fine, member details to bill, then create the bill and collect that fine. Then update the book status, means the book has been returned, isn't it? So you have to update it. Update number of books issued to member. Okay, clear? So if no fine, just update the book status. Okay. Now activity diagram for issue book in library. Issuing the book in the library. So how the librarian issues the book to the student. First, the student will inquire about the book. So what is that book? Title, author, all those things. Check the availability of the book. So he has to check whether the book is available or not. So if now you have to make a decision, you have to take a decision. So if it is available, here it is written available, validate the member. Now you have to validate that member. So either see his USN if his name is correct or not. So this because everything here the uniqueness is in his USN only. So you can validate through his USN and name. Not available means book is not available. So there only it ends. There only that state stops. Okay. Now validate the member. If valid, you check the number of books issued to that member. So how many books you can issue to a member? Like for example, I have given a restricted number as 8. Now if the member is not valid, then try to register that member. Okay, now here check the number of books issued to member. So if it exceeds the maximum number, then you cannot issue the book to him. Book not issued, because more than 8 you cannot issue in the let us take in the semester. So over, his turn is over, so you cannot issue the book. If it is less than the maximum quote, then issue the book. Here it is then, no, issue the book. Add the member, book and issue details. Now you have issued the book, so add the member details, which book has been issued, what date, all those, and update the book status. Book status. In book also you have to update. This is being issued to whom and take his signature on. So this is the final state. Final state. Next we'll see class diagram for library system. Class diagram for library system. So I told that what is a class diagram? It consists of several classes, several classes. So here we have one class as book, another one as librarian, third one is transaction, fourth one member record, bill, student, faculty, like this. Many classes are there, and you know that you have the attributes for your class, also the methods for your class, and also you have to show the association between each class. So here you can see book. What is the attribute? Book ID, author, name, price, all those. So book, librarian, name, password. So he can search the book, verify the member, issue the book, calculate the fine, create the bill, return the book. Correct? So book, librarian issues the book actually, and the librarian creates the transaction. So you have trans ID, member ID, book ID, date of issue, due date, create transaction, all those. Okay. And then we have member record class. Member record class. What is this one? This indicates aggregation. You know that this indicates aggregation. Here also it is aggregation. See, book means different categories of books. It can be journals, magazines, study books. So this notation indicates aggregation. Here also member record. Member record means it will store the record, all the details of the members. Who are the members? It can be student. Even the faculty can also borrow the book. So this is aggregation. This is aggregation. And transaction, bill is there, no? Bill class is also there. You will be having a particular bill number, date, and to whom that bill has been generated. You can keep the member ID, amount. Clear? So bill create, bill update are those methods. Now we'll see a state diagram for book. So you have seen the event state diagram for a microwave oven. So same thing, state diagram for book. So this indicates the initial state. So what is the initial state? Available. If the book is available, the book requested by the member is available, then it will be issued to member. So look at the stimuli. Member request for book. So if it's available, it will be issued to member. Member returns the book. Now once it has been issued on one particular date, he has to return the book. So when the member returns the book, it will move to which state? Available. Now the book is available. Clear? So first state is available state, means the book is available now. That means member will request for that book. It is available. So member requests for that book will be issued to member. So this state it came. Now from issued to member state, back it can move to available state. So how is it? When the member returns back the book, it moves to the available state. Now the book is again available. State diagram for a librarian. Librarian, what he can do, this is the initial state. Na? So idle, first is in idle state. So checking the availability of the book, first thing. So member will request for the book, no? So he will check the availability of the book. Now first, whether the book is available or not is checked. If it is available, then he will validate the member. Okay, so take the member details, validate his details, and if it's confirmed that he is a valid member, then he will issue the book to the member. If it is invalid, again to idle state. Now after issuing, when the member returns the book, again the librarian will calculate if any fine is there. If suppose he returns the book after the due date, then if any fine is imposed, that fine he can calculate. No fine or member pays fine, then return the book. So that book will be returned to the librarian, back to the librarian. Clear? Now sequence diagram, which is very, very important sequence diagram for issuing the book. So we have one class, librarian, another one book, member, record, transaction. Okay. So first we are checking, the librarian will check the availability of the book. So now if the book is available, acknowledgement is sent. So now librarian will validate the member. Okay. And check the number of books issued. How many books has been issued. Okay, member record. So book can be issued. If it is less than, then book can be issued. Then create. If not, if it's not a valid member, then you have to add the member and book details. Okay, and then update the book status and even update the member record. Now let us see about model-driven engineering. So this is a new terminology for you in software engineering, model-driven engineering. So in short, we are calling it as MDE, model-driven engineering. So what is this? See, it is an approach to software development where models rather than programs are the principal outputs of the development process. See, suppose you want to build a system. Finally, what you're seeing, the output, isn't it? You're developing the system or the software. So how you will be developing through programs, through coding. So finally, what you have is the program which will give the expected output. But in model-driven engineering, what we are saying is the output is expected as the models. You have studied several models now, structural models, behavioral models. So what we are expecting in this MDE is, rather than the programs, we should get the output as the models. The programs that execute on a hardware or software platform are generated automatically from the models. So from these models, you should be able to automatically generate the programs. So model-driven engineering, the main arguments for and against MDE are: for MDE, model-based engineering allows engineers to think about systems at a high level of abstraction without concern for the details of their implementation. So what does it tell here? It is for MDE, in support of MDE. So it will mainly allow the engineers to think about systems at a high level of abstraction. So you won't be thinking about much about the implementation here or the coding. So what happens is, This will reduce the likelihood of errors, okay, and it speeds up the design and implementation process and allows for the creation of reusable platform independent application models. Okay, now when you go against MD, the thing is it does not always follow that the abstractions that are supported by the model are the right abstractions for implementation. So always we cannot take that whatever abstractions you're getting from the models will be the right abstraction for the implementation. So let us discuss about model driven architecture. So this is the very important part here, MDA in short, model driven architecture. So it is a model focused approach to software design and implementation that uses a subset of UML models to describe a system. So we will see the architecture now. We have this diagram, MDA architecture, MDA architecture, model driven architecture. This is very important. So in this, we have three types of abstract system model. Three types of abstract system model. One is, you can see here, computation independent model, platform independent model, platform specific model. So we have three types of abstract models. So we will see one by one. That is the first one, computation independent model. In short, we can call it as CIM, computation independent model. So we will see the first model in that, a computation independent model. It's also known as CIM, in short, CIM. So what is the use of this computation independent model? It models the important domain abstractions used in the system. So it models the important domain abstractions used in the system. So therewise, these CIMs are also called as domain models. They are also called as domain models. So here you may develop several different CIMs reflecting different views of the system. So you can develop several different CIMs. So what does it do? It will give different views of the system. Okay, so these are called domain models because they represent the domain abstractions of the system. Just one example. For example, there may be a security CIM. So we might have a security CIM which will identify important security abstractions. So we have one security CIM in our system which will actually identify the important security abstractions such as an asset. Okay. And we have one more CIM, that is a role and a patient record CIM. So what does it do? Patient record CIM, in which you describe abstractions such as patients, consultations, etc. So you can have abstractions like details of the patients, their consultations, etc. Second one, so in the diagram you can see here, we have the computation independent model. Next is the platform independent model. So in short, it is called as PIM. PIM. So this one models the operation of the system without reference to its implementation. So it's not going to talk anything about the implementation. It will model the operation of the system. The PIM is usually described using UML models that show the static system structure, which is that behavioral models, and also how it responds to external and internal events. External and internal events. Third one, platform specific models, PSM. PSM. So these are the transformations of the platform independent model with a separate PSM for each application platform. So these are actually transformations of your PIM, but you will be having a separate PSM for each application platform. In principle, there may be layers of PSM. You might be having layers of PSM, with each layer adding some platform specific detail. So there will be several layers of PSM. So each layer will add some platform specific detail. So the first level PSM could be middleware specific. For example, if I take the first level PSM, it could be middleware specific, okay, but database independent. So it's not having anything, it's not related to anything database kind. When a specific database has been chosen, a database specific PSM will be generated, okay. So this is the model driven architecture. So you can see here computation independent model, platform independent model, platform specific model, and finally you have the executable code. So here we have a translator for all these models. So I told that the output will be model. From the model you have to try to generate the program or the source code. So here this computation independent model translator will be from what? Domain specific guidelines. All those should be translated, isn't it? Platform independent model, platform specific patterns and rules, all those are translated. Platform specific model, language specific patterns, what programming language is required, that all. So one thing you keep in mind, there may be several PSMs for each PIM. Already I've told there might be several PSMs for each PIM. Now, if a software system is intended to run on different platforms, like you want to run the software on Java platform or .NET platform, then it is only necessary to maintain the PIM. Keep in mind, PIM is very important. You need to maintain that one. What about PSM? PSM for each platform will be automatically generated. So you need not bother about it. So keep in mind, you need to maintain the PIM. But PSM will be automatically generated. So you can look into this figure, multiple platform specific models. Platform independent model 1 you have, PIM. So what you are going to run the system on Java platform as well as .NET platform. Now let us discuss about the design and implementation. So we will study something about RUP. So let us see the introduction to RUP. RUP stands for Rational Unified Process. Rational Unified Process. So it is an example of a modern process model. So it is one of the process model that has been derived from work on the UML and the associated unified software development process. So the RUP recognizes that the process models present a single view of the process. So RUP is one of the modern process model, I can tell. So it has been derived from the work on the UML and also the associated unified software development process. So what exactly is this RUP? The RUP is a phased model, I can tell, or it's a process model that will present a single view of the process. RUP is normally described from three perspectives. So it is described from three perspectives. One is dynamic perspective. Second one is static perspective. And third one is practice perspective. So we have three perspectives. So let us see in detail about it. A dynamic perspective, which shows the phases of the model of which one the RUP over time. Second one is a static perspective, which shows the process activities that are enacted. And practice perspective means it will mainly suggest the good practices to be used during the process. Okay. So RUP is a phased model after all. Why it's called phased model? Because it identifies 4 discrete phases in software process while developing the software. So there are 4 discrete phases. Now look at the figure here. Phases in the rational unified process, that is RUP. So we have 4 discrete phases. One is inception, elaboration, construction, transition. Okay. And here you have the phase iteration. So we have 4 discrete phases. One is inception, second one is elaboration, third one construction, and fourth one is transition. So let us see one by one. First one is inception. Now this is one of the phase of the RUP model. So goal of this phase is to establish a business case for the system. So that is the major goal. So what you are going to do is here you are going to identify all the external entities. External entities means it can be people and systems that will interact with the system. Okay. So define these interactions. First you try to identify all the external entities, that is people and systems that will interact with the system, and define those interactions. Now use this information to assess the contribution that the system makes to the business. Okay. So you have to use this information, whatever you have identified, the external entities and their interactions. All this information is used to assess the contribution that the system will make for the business. Second one is elaboration. So elaboration means the goal of this phase is to develop an understanding of the problem domain. So mainly you are going into depth to understand the problem domain. Then establish an architectural framework for the system. So you are developing an architecture for the system. Develop the project plan. So you need to develop the project plan. So how exactly you are going to carry out the project, and identify the project risk. So whatever risk is there in the project that you need to identify. So that is done in elaboration phase. So you have to understand the problem domain clearly. You have to develop an architecture for your system, and also you have to plan properly for the project, how you are going to conduct it, and you have to identify the project risk. On completion of this phase, a requirements model must be built for the system. A requirements model must be built finally for the system. Third one is construction phase. So you can just see here is in the figure, you have the inception phase, then elaboration, but construction is a lengthy phase, then transition. So we'll move on to construction phase now. This phase involves system design, then programming and testing. So that's why it's lengthy. So what all it involves? System design, programming and testing. So on completion of this phase, you'll get a working software system and its associated documentation also that should be ready to deliver to its users. So on completion of this phase, you need to get a working software with the documentation, so that should be delivered to the users. Fourth phase is transition. What is the transition? Transition phase. This phase is concerned with moving the system from the development community. So your system was in development community, that is construction phase, no? Your system has been developed, so it's in the development community to the user community. So you're delivering it to the users and making it work in real-time environment. Okay. So iteration within RUP is supported in two ways. So you can see phase iteration in the figure. Phase iteration. So what does it indicate? Iteration within RUP is supported in two ways. Each phase may be enacted in an iterative way with the results developed incrementally. So each phase is there, no? Inception, elaboration, construction, transition. So that may be enacted in an iterative way. It goes on iteration with the results developed incrementally. In addition, the whole set of phases may also be enacted incrementally, as shown by the looping arrow from transition to inception. So either each phase may be enacted in an iterative way with the results developed incrementally. In addition, the whole set of phases may also be enacted incrementally, as shown by the looping arrow from transition to inception. You can see from transition to inception. Thank you.